Ladies and gentlemen, it is another Sunday night, meaning it is another episode of Third Man presented by yours truly, DJTJ. And with me is, of course, the wonderful nebbiiee and the wonderful omgfriday. Ladies, how we doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Doing great, DJ. How about you?
Doing great. It's a pleasure to have y'all. We may have to change the name of the podcast from Third Man to Third Woman. I mean, I'm close enough at this point, but you know, that's a really good point to start on for this podcast. We're gonna be talking a lot about women in gaming, about kind of y'all's paths through the field, and then for me, obviously as a man in gaming, kind of looking in from the outside. Obviously, me and nebbiiee / Hana have been working together for the last year and a half, 2 years, so I've gotten lucky enough to get a taste of kind of that side of things. Shout out the WCB scene. Shout out Hira, Nessa, and Jade with Torchic. Shout out that team. Hira's actually in chat, which is another fair point, is that if you're not here live in Twitch chat, where are you? If you're listening to this from Spotify, twitch.tv/DJTJRL at 9 p.m. Eastern on Sundays. Be there. But without further ado, why don't we break into things? So we're just going to hop straight into it. Let's start with you, Hana. Give us your intro, kind of what you do, and then we'll pass it around.
Alrighty, well, hey gang. I know a lot of you in chat. Hi guys. My name is Hana or nebbiiee. I'm a content creator for Ghost Gaming, computer science student at UGA, all around esports enthusiast. I've been in Rocket League for probably about 6 or 7 years at this point. I run a blog, esports at UGA. I talk a lot on Twitter. And I really just love my involvement in esports in general. I just started casting recently in December, so looking forward to growing in that career as well.
All right, Friday, that goes to you.
Oh, Hana, you killed that. Oh my god, I have to follow up. No. Hey everyone, I'm Friday, also known as Kath. I'm a current Business of Creative Enterprises student with an esports minor at Emerson College. I was the former president of Emerson Esports, so shout out to them. I'm now the intercollegiate communications manager, so kind of expanding the program. We're student-led right now, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I'm currently just kind of working on expanding the program to be funded. And then otherwise, I'm a project manager right now for College Esports News. So kind of doing a little bit of project management in like content and video creation. And yeah, it's a bit about me.
Yeah, we will talk a lot about College Esports News. Shout out Sheridan.
We love them.
Shout out
oh
Sheridan
my god, I
and
love
the whole
her.
team over there.
Oh,
I love Sheridan. Speaking of women in gaming, shout out Sheridan.
Yeah, real.
So yeah, so we will 1000%. We will get there for sure because that is such an awesome initiative. We'll talk collegiate too. I mean, you're over there crossing your fingers for funding. We've been doing the same thing, along with every collegiate program in the world at this point. So we will touch on it. But I will throw it back over to Hana to talk a little bit about kind of what you're doing currently, kind of how you got involved, kind of your story of how you got into esports.
So I've told this story a billion times, and it's silly literally every time. But in 8th grade, I was in love with this boy. And he played a lot of Rocket League, and, you know, he was good. This is a little known fact. I talked about this on Boost Over Ball. But so he was in his Squishy Muffins 1v1 video, and so he lost to Squishy. So we all printed out pictures of Squishy and put them on his locker. And it was the funniest thing ever. So I wanted to impress this guy because he was like GC. So I'm like, Dad, please buy me Rocket League. Like, we just got an Xbox. So he bought me Rocket League. And I, you know, tried to play and get better. I'm still plat to this day, so that didn't really work out for me. I did hit diamond once, so we'll take that. And then so from there, just kept playing a lot, and I've always had a funky controller, crazy stick drift, weird shit going on with my controller all the time. You know how they have the esports tab on the Rocket League page? Tabbed into that, and I sat on my couch and watched Twitch for hours. Literally was so amazed because all of my friends, you know, I was like, oh, they're so good. They're so good. And we're all gold, platinum, maybe. Like, we were not good. And I sat there and watched these professional players, and I just didn't even understand how they could be doing the things they were doing, why this was happening. Like, I can't fly. How are they flying? What's going on? And they used to have the Twitter scroll at the bottom of the screen with all the tweets. And I was like, I need to start talking about this. Get me on there. So I downloaded Twitter and did not tell my parents. And I actually got in a lot of trouble for that. Little known fact. But from there, downloaded Twitter, just kind of kept yapping about it, kept constantly tweeting about Rocket League. If you guys knew me at any point during the 2018 to 2019 me, I'm so sorry. I was 14. I apologize. But yeah, from there just kept yapping. Somebody told me, you know what? I think you're pretty funny. You should stream. And honestly, the rest is history. It's just been going up from there. I'm currently involved with Ghost Gaming, obviously, as a creator and a former ambassador. I write a blog, the Esports Tribune, shameless self-plug, interview with Arsenal just dropped. I'm also the technical writing director over at Skulls Gear, which has been a lot of fun. It's been a great internship. Oh my God, what else do I do? Esports at UGA is super involved over there. I love my UGA people.
Yeah,
Go
we'll
Dogs.
touch more on what you're currently doing as well.
Oh,
So you
I'm
don't,
sorry.
You don't have to
Okay,
remember.
I'll stop.
Oh, you're chilling. We're here to yap. No, you do not need to like go into detail about everything. We will definitely hit each
We'll
of
get
those
there.
as we go, because you are
Okay.
involved in a lot. I mean, I definitely, me and you both, I feel you. We are in everything. I mean, Friday, you are obviously working on a lot as well. And so I will kind of throw it over to you to talk about kind of how you got into gaming, esports, and the whole world as is.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say, like, I always see you all posting about different things that you're doing, and I mean, it's awesome. But I'm just like, dang, one after the next. Athletes are crazy.
It's a little
but, like,
draining, just a little bit.
Mad props to y'all. That work-life balance. But yeah, in terms of how I got into esports, to be honest, I mean, I really always liked gaming, obviously, throughout my life. But really during quarantine, I started kind of following my brother into his like little Fortnite scene because he was like in with like the Fortnite community. And so he was constantly doing that. And then he kind of just like invited me to like chat with like his friends. And so at a time where everyone was inside, I just got like sucked in to this like world that I didn't know anything about. And all of a sudden I had like multiple people's Twitch streams up, like watching them play Fortnite. Like I didn't really know what was going on. All of a sudden, Valorant like comes out and people are like trying to get these keys so that they can play. And like from there, I was like, okay, I want to build my own PC now and I want to start gaming. And so I think it was still it was the first year of like official like Valorant esports, but it was obviously like all online because COVID was still a huge issue. And I basically was just like watch partying with my friends on Discord. And I started making friends by playing competitive and like finding a random 5 stack, you know? And so ever since then, I was like, this is really cool. I was like, this community, this sense of community, these people kind of pulling together to produce something like this is really sick. And so when I went to school for musical theater, I was like, okay, but like, what if the school has like some sort of like esports program? And then from there, we fell in deep. So yeah, that's kind of how I initially really got into it. I have my brother to thank. So shout out to my brother. He's probably not watching. Because he anytime I tell him anything, he's like, "You're a cheerleader?" I'm like, "I post about that all the time." I'm like, this is not an unknown fact. So if he is, shout out to him. But yeah, I would say it was really like my brother that really kind of got me into it.
Yeah. I mean, it's so cool to see the world of how everything, like in collegiate especially, because all of us, like, obviously we are 20, 21, 22, etc. But like, it's weird to see how we all as kids found this scene and then took it with us to kickstart our programs. Or like in our case, I know Hana knows this very well. We had to kind of change the program here to kind of like quote unquote save it. And everybody
out the depths.
yeah. So I mean, everybody's had such cool kind of stories of how they got into things, and everybody making a difference in the scene as well, just simply because that's what collegiate's all about. It is about, hey, like if you want to start your program, you can start your career, and then next thing you know, you're traveling to Myrtle Beach to go do something, or you're traveling, I mean, God knows where. You're going to Boston for the major, like who knows? Yeah. But it's just so cool to see. And obviously, we're going to come back to the collegiate point. But I'll throw it back over to Hana to kind of talk about what you're currently doing, currently working on. Obviously, you're coming fresh off of a article release with Arsenal, which was incredible. I mean, that's such a cool thing. It's a great read. If we can get the link to that, shout out Mods.
Oh my God, yes. The esportstribune.org, if anyone's wondering.
If Mods can get that link and put it in chat, that'd be awesome. So shout out the Mods. Shout out Sarah and Neon for helping out. But yeah, so talk a little bit about that and obviously the millions of other things that you're doing.
So I've always loved writing. For years and years, I ran a poetry account on Instagram. I had a Wattpad, like I was that kid. I was always writing, and I wanted to bring. Kath. I wanted to bring that over to esports in a way, and so I did work with Collegiate Esports News for a brief minute, but my schedule unfortunately just didn't really allow it. So last spring, that is the right link, Neon, thank you. Last spring, my passion project, the Esports Tribune, was born, and I write a lot of things on there. Some of it's just opinion pieces, some of it's just me talking, and then my favorite series that is near and dear to my heart is Behind the Tag. I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of these pro players just through streaming and getting to know them as real people and not necessarily just a player, you know what I mean? And I think it is so rewarding to be able to show that side of people and tell their stories, and that's something I love so much. The Arsenal one is one of my favorites. We had so much fun. We laughed for hours. And basically all of them read like that. All these people are real people and they're silly and they have all these memories and experiences that make them who they are as a person and player. And I think it's a really cool thing. But I'll stop yapping about my blog. I'm also working with Skulls right now as their technical writing director. So their blogs, their releases, things for their category, etc. I'm just doing some content stuff for them as well. Esports at UGA. Awesome. Love this. I do whatever I need to do. I fill in wherever. Rocket League coordinator, one of them. And just kind of exist. Oh my god, what else am I doing right now? I'm doing more things. Obviously, streaming for Ghost Gaming. Hi, I love you, Ghost Gaming. You were in chat previously. Love you. And it's been such an honor to work with them and just also be a part of the growth of the ambassador program, which is such a cool program, which I know we'll touch on a little bit later. But I just absolutely adore everything that's going on in Georgia esports. And commentating. You will hopefully be seeing me on the mic in the coming weeks. Little spoiler alert there, but I'm really excited to get back into that and grow a little more and learn a little more in that regard as well.
Yeah, we're soft launching here now. Okay. All right.
Well, in the coming weeks doesn't give any specificness. It's just eventually. I might.
Chat, what's coming in a few weeks? RLCS is coming back.
Oh, guys, this is me hard launching. I'm actually casting RLCS. I've been casting for 3 months and they want me. Sorry.
Unironically, I cannot tell if you're being serious or not.
Hello?
Are you being for real?
No.
Okay.
What the?
I was so worried. Was so concerned
In what
for a second.
world?
I thought you were being for real.
Okay. Hey, manifestation. This is
You're
that
right.
moment.
You're
though.
right. You're right.
This is that moment.
Hey,
I have to like put my head down for a second,
hey,
y'all.
as long as you're doing a team stream, a team stream counts. That's what I did.
Oh,
Technically,
no.
I could say I've casted RLCS.
No.
Oh,
No.
there you have it.
But that is fun.
All right.
No, there is on a real note. There's a lot of really cool events in the next couple months, and we're gonna kind of touch on this. There's a lot of women's Rocket League in the next couple weeks as well.
Yes.
So hopefully, maybe we see nebbiiee on the desk in one of those events. Maybe, I don't know. We won't tease too much, but hopefully we'll see you as a part of that. There's so many incredible events. We had Radiant Star Chasers today. You have the new Stride Ladies Nights at 5 p.m. on Fridays, I think, or 7 p.m. on Fridays, something like that.
I think it's 7.
I believe so. Yeah, so there's a lot of really cool things coming up. So hopefully we will see you on the desk, and if not that, then something even cooler, hopefully. But yeah, so Hana, obviously a Swiss Army knife in her own right in terms of everything she's involved in. And so Friday, I know it's kind of hard to beat, but I'm very intrigued to hear what you're doing right now as well.
So hard to beat, but I love it because she's so inspiring in every way.
I love you.
No, I love you. So like really when I kind of started getting involved with esports, I was involved obviously with Emerson Esports as a player first on the Valorant team while also being like executive assistant. And we had kind of mentioned
rank check.
Rank check.
Rank check.
Rank check.
I think it's like probably like silver, but like I peaked plat 3 and then peaked like that's like a crazy high or something. But like I plat 3 and then I just like absolutely I was like no, I'm never playing again.
We are the same rank if that makes you feel any better. We are the same.
I'm worse, so I hope that makes you feel better.
Guys, can't wait for us to trio queue. But yeah, so I started as executive assistant in this kind of transitional period of what Emerson Esports used to be in comparison to kind of where it is now. And so from there, I kind of realized that I really liked more of like management in terms of the org itself, and I was not really like a competitive player. And so from there, I got involved with events as well because I really just loved creating an affirming space for people because I felt like the president at the time had created that space for me. So I got involved running events and kind of helped reshape the events branch for Emerson Esports, which was wonderful and amazing. And then, vice president to president. and to where I am now as the intercollegiate communications manager. And it's definitely uh, a little bit of a struggle. A lot of conversations and meetings with faculty administration, but we do what we can, and that's what we're here for. But from there, I was very much like, this is all kind of new to me because I didn't do too much when I was still a musical theater major because I was trying to invest myself into like auditions and vocal and vocal stuff and things like that. So it really took up a lot of my time until I made the switch to another major. And then I saw College Esports News had tweeted looking for volunteers, and I always liked project management just because I thought I was pretty on top of everything as president for Emerson Esports. I was like, why not? And so I hopped on board and started working on some of the CVAL videos, and then that kind of branched off into like, oh, there's this new tournament for marginalized genders called the Aurora Series, and I wanted to help cover that because I think that's amazing. And it just so happened to be that like my org, Emerson Esports, started our own all-woman and non-binary Valorant team. So I get to be the manager of that. So shout out to Sammy, who is our head of events and one of the co-captains. She came to me and they were like, I want to start this team. And I was like, let's do it. I was like, absolutely, we're fully going in. And Kit, who's the other co-captain, has been just amazing to work with. So they're both incredible. And the team has done amazing things, like hit playoffs for NACE first semester. Like, come on, like, yes, you know what I'm saying? So happy for them. But and then now I think we can talk about like the game hers, but gonna be a collegiate ambassador, so that's really exciting. Excited to kind of game hers. Excited to really kind of dive in on that and see what sort of initiatives I can bring to campus. And then I also like sort of like soft launching, like did just join like a tier 3 org doing some event stuff, but like I don't know if I'm allowed
Okay.
to I don't know when I'm allowed to
Okay.
say like what I'm doing. So
You under an
but
NDA over there?
I just like don't know. Like I literally had the meeting before this, so like depending on when I can say like when I'm announcing
We won't
that.
ask more details.
We won't joke about it like we did with Anna.
No,
then.
it's not. I don't think it's under NDA. I just like haven't gotten to talk to them about like when we're running it back. When when I can be like, yeah, I'm here. So, but yeah, that's me.
Yeah, and that kind of transitions well. Before obviously mentioning the tier 3 team, which is congratulations, that's awesome. Obviously talking about your position at College E News, or the official name is Collegiate E News, or is it Collegiate Esports News? I forget.
College Esports News.
Okay, I
News.
forget what their official name is, but that right there is probably one of the coolest things that come out of the last few years for collegiate. Obviously, having all women's or non-binary teams is incredible. We will touch on that as well, as now we kind of are going to move into the collegiate side of things. So obviously, we all have experience working in collegiate programs. As you could guess, it is not as easy as it sounds. Trying to kind of just pull money out of thin air is a talent that I've had to kind of learn. They don't teach you that in school, so definitely interesting. But I'm going to actually throw it back to you, Friday, because before we break into kind of like what it's like to work in collegiate, what's the biggest thing that you think you've learned from working in collegiate?
The biggest thing I think I've learned, wow. To be honest, I think the biggest thing that I've learned, and this is something that I'm learning a lot right now in this like really present moment, it's really kind of all hitting, is this idea that like at the end of the day, it really is about the community that you have on campus. And I think a lot of the times we get wrapped up into our competitive teams competing and, being able to compete at the highest level that we can in collegiate. But at the end of the day, like we would not be who we are without our community. And so that, there's a lot of conversation these days about orgs like rebranding to be like blank gaming instead of like blank esports, to try and bring in that community from your school, because a lot more people can resonate with being a gamer than like being like an esports like player, if that makes sense. And so like the biggest thing that I've really kind of been learning, and it's something that I hold to my heart, because the reason I got involved with the org was the sense of community and creating an affirming space for people to consistently come back to. And so like I would say that that's the biggest thing, and it's something that I'm really kind of hammering into like right now.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Community driven is how I personally feel that all collegiate programs should be driven. That's what makes collegiate special, is the fact that we can pull from a few hundred or a few thousand students and still have the same kind of impact or skill level. I mean, that's just kind of what collegiate is all about, is that no matter what school you're from, no matter, I mean, any name could be big, no matter if you're private, public, or anything like that. And so I'll throw it back over to Hannah, because what I'm intrigued to hear, obviously you're not like running an esports program, but working both from a content side of things and then getting involved in collegiate and then kind of merging the worlds. I'm intrigued to hear your take on comparing your work in collegiate to comparing your work in the professional scene, and just overall kind of how collegiate measures up. Because it's in a weird state, in my opinion, but I want to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts.
I definitely agree. I think collegiate is in a bit of a limbo right now, per se, just thinking about the economy and just also all of these universities all over the place having esports programs pop up and trying to get that funding from a university. But I think a lot of the skills that I've learned and taken from my professional life apply themselves well to esports. For example, I think something that's important to grow esports programs is kind of like we were talking about rebranding it from esports to gaming, because I have a lot of friends that game that have no involvement in UJ esports at all, just people in my classes that I meet that I always try to like recruit a little bit, but they think it's something that is so serious. They're like, I can't compete on a team. I don't have that time commitment. It's like, no, that's not what this is. So trying to remarket, I guess, clubs in a different way to appeal to the masses rather than just like be on our competitive team and do X, Y, and Z. And I also think just the level of professionalism you get from working in a more professional environment obviously lends itself to the collegiate scene, because we're all children. And it is hard to get real adults to take us seriously when we're asking for money or for a grant or for a space or whatever the
For
list,
video
like the
games.
list goes on for video games, right? Exactly. So being able to take esports and put it more into an economic opportunity or a way for the university to advance themselves, kind of measuring that in numbers or statistics, and presenting it more like a work opportunity, I guess. So the marketability of esports goes in both ways, in my opinion, like to the student, the casual, like we all just like games, come hang out. And then also to the university, hey, this is how we can make you money. So I think honestly, if those two principles get implemented in a lot more places, that would lead to more growth in programs, and also just more support in general.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly where I was going to throw it back to Friday. Is now, obviously, me and you can relate to this, is trying to make that jump from creating a community of like 50 people who want to come through and play some games to now growing to the hundreds or thousands. What does that process look like for you at Emerson? Whether that involves faculty or not, and kind of how it's affected the students. Basically, overall, how has your club grown?
Yeah, definitely. Like an insane amount, I would say, over the past couple of years. And I would say like one thing that I wanted to touch on that Hannah had said is this idea of like, or I think you had mentioned it, but like the administration and a lot of older people, the ones that have the power with the money, they don't understand like there's no set definition of like what esports means. And so like having to like figure out like having to define what that means like here on campus, and like because they have
Yep.
one definition in their mind versus what like actually goes on. And so like trying to define that is difficult. And
Which
even
I
when
want to touch on
defining
that.
it,
I'll touch on that real
we'll get to
quickly. Well, yeah,
please do, 'cause
very
I just
quickly.
wanted to
I do
like
want to touch on that. Is
what?
that people forget what esports is? Because like again, like you can simply, like if you really want to, you could say, hey, we're competitive gamers, and leave it at that. But it's so much more. And obviously, I'm very up to date on my research, because I did just give a TED talk on esports. I like to think I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But no, I mean I'm really glad you brought that up, because esports literally is everything. Arguably. Not arguably. It is.
It is.
It is everything. I mean, I can't think of a single avenue that esports isn't involved in, other than maybe like blue collar work, I guess, because I'm not grabbing a shovel to play. I mean, but Guitar Hero's close enough. I'm grabbing a whole controller. But no, I mean, but seriously, it touches so many career fields, to where there are companies and businesses that I've gotten to sit down with who never thought that they'd be involved in gaming. And then all of a sudden they turn around and they got this 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old who's like, hey, I got 1,000 kids. We would do this. Would you like to be a part of it? So I just want to touch on that, but I'll let you get back to it.
Yeah, I mean that's such an important point because currently like my major right now in school, the business of creative enterprises, it's a track where you can like take your electives from different majors at the school. So broadcasting, production, like publishing, I mean like theater if someone, you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like that
You
sort
could
of
go
thing
on
and
for
like
hours. Yeah.
that's that's such a like integral part like communications for me, so I get to do like sports PR and things like that. Like that's a huge thing for me because I feel like that's exactly what the esports industry is literally all of these different, you know, fields like all kind of coming together to have one central focus. But like in going back to what you had said about the org growing, uh it's grown such a substantial amount. And you know, the crazy thing is like at some point when it's, you know, not funded and when there's have so many people and you have so many teams, it can be so hard to give all the resources that you can to all of the teams because you have so many people wanting to compete and play. And then it's like you're at some point running out of resources to be able to help. And you don't want, you know, two teams' experiences to be like faltering because you have to like help maybe what's considered the A team, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
get to where they need to go. And so like that's always been such a huge issue for us to kind of navigate. And that's why we're trying to, you know, currently kind of exploring like the difference between like varsity and club and like what that could kind of look like for a student run organization. But at the end of the day, like all of our like funding comes from our like student government association, and we have to pitch like why we need, you know, we needed money for coaches, and they literally told us, they were like, we shouldn't be paying for your coaches. Like the school should be paying for coaches if they're like, you know what I'm saying?
But
And so it's like,
SGA is the school, right?
yeah,
It's
exactly.
yeah.
So it's like,
Now we're
I'm like, we
starting to get to the
still
same
like,
person. Like I'm starting to
you
feel like
know,
the
so
exact
it's
same
like,
person. Yep.
yeah. So it's like, you know, we've had to like get them on our side, but even when we have them on our side, like there's still things that they won't be able to do. But, you know, in terms of Emerson esports growing, it's very much just at this point kind of navigating how we can give everyone an amazing experience with there's a lot of people and not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of resources.
Yeah. Which one thing I was gonna ask too is how many people go to Emerson? Do you know?
It's honestly not a lot. I would say like, gosh, someone's gonna be watching
Is
this
it
and be like, the numbers are
4,000,
off.
five
I
thousand?
think it is, but between 4 and 5,000. Not a
Okay.
lot. Like there's probably like 1,000 freshmen I know like each year, and so
Okay.
then that number can kind of.
Close enough. Yeah. No. I mean, I'm glad you brought up trying to allocate because in collegiate we don't get paid for a lot of
Yeah.
what we do, and people forget about the work that we do. Trying to allocate both yourself to that and the program, that's one thing that I've learned a lot over the last year. Because obviously, I want to get involved in so much, as a lot of collegiate people do. You want to have a job. I mean, you want to go do this. You want to go learn how to cast. You want to just randomly start that up like Hana if you feel like it. It's a lot. And trying to allocate both the load on yourself and money wise, if you can even get that far, it's a really important point. And we're not really going to touch on this too much, but the mental health side of collegiate esports is something that is severely underrated and completely forgotten about because, like Hannah said earlier, we are kids. Like, really. Like, if you're going straight from high school to college, unless you're paying for it all by yourself, you're not really like you're really not adult, which is crazy. And people obviously don't want to hear that because they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting ready to take off and go do my own thing." But it is crazy to think, and we're all learning as we go. And so I'm glad you brought that up because that is important. So one thing I do want to go off of that with is, are y'all like club sport, athletics? Where are y'all right now?
So yeah, so that's a question.
It's a great question
So
too. We're on the
we
same
are
boat. Yep.
so we are one of our we're an affiliated organization, Emerson College, which means that we get funded by SGA, which is our Student Government Association, and we work with SEAL, who's the Student Engagement and Leadership Team. So that's like administration. And so we have a faculty advisor. Our faculty advisor, Josh, he's amazing. Like he's always so helpful with us when we, you know, because he's been through this entire like growth phase for us, with us. But aside from that, like we're not part of athletics. We have an esports minor at our school. I'm in it. The org is completely separate from that. And it's like,
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
It is a little
Strange.
And some of the conversations is like, oh, if esports gets housed, like Emerson Esports gets housed under communications, like what is that going to look like? Because we're having this conversation right now about how esports is it's so interdisciplinary. There's so many different, there's so many different tracks that you can take that it's not just like one department, I think. And so it's like that sort of conversation, that I have to have a lot of the times. But yeah, so right now we're just an affiliated organization with the school, which means we get funding through SGA. But other than that, we're not associated with our athletics or any of the departments.
Yeah, I feel that.
What about y'all?
Yeah, so
Give me the rundown.
UGA, we've had our fair share of experiences. Hana, if you want to chime in on this, I will let you. But
No, this is all you. I think you have a little more experience on this end, so I'm not gonna misconstrue the audience here.
yeah, so this is why I wanted to have Friday on here so bad as well, is because I know we can go back and forth about running collegiate programs. So for those of you who are new to the show, I'm the director of esports at the University of Georgia. That's a 2,000-person program, and we are just a club, which is crazy. Every company, every program leader, everyone I've talked to has been shocked at that, and I am too. But this is also why I wanted Friday on here, was that comparing the differences in collegiate to a small school of like 5,000 to 10,000 versus a bigger school like 30 to 40,000, they are two completely different worlds. Skill level, community-wise, event-wise, money-wise, they're completely different because you can find external money and external support in the bigger schools because of the fan bases, but you will not find actual true community success in a lot of those bigger schools because of the way that these programs are trying to run off of like nothing. So yeah, also very glad you brought that up because I know esports at UGA, we are definitely struggling money-wise. We're always trying to come up with ways to generate sponsorships. It's been a lot of fundraisers. We're hoping that soon maybe we can tap into the alumni network. I'm glad you mentioned SGA because SGA are amazing friends of ours, and we love SGA. But we are very limited in the amount of money that we can request. I believe if you are a new club and you have not requested money through SGA before, you have to request a maximum of $750 for 3 semesters in a row. Before, wait a minute. Before,
It gets worse.
Before you even get the chance to apply for a budget that I'm pretty sure isn't more than 1,000. Now wait.
What?
Your reaction is the same as everybody else's. So that's where I wanted to go with this. Welcome to collegiate esports. I hope that the viewers and listeners are now familiar with what we're dealing with. So now I'm going to throw it back to you, and I'm going to ask, what does Emerson get, if you don't mind?
I'm not even sure. Like, I guess I don't even know if I can share.
Okay, you can give us a range too. It can be a wide
Okay.
range.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get anybody fired, obviously.
Between 10 to $22,000.
Okay. So that's where we're at. Okay.
Crying like right now.
All right.
The thing
so
is orgs get different things
yes,
depending on how involved with the community they are.
Okay.
If that makes sense. The more that Emerson sees that you are part of their community, they're like, here's what you can give.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm also part of like another org that does not get that. I do not see the same sort of funding. You know what I'm saying? Like I've talked with enough org leaders at school, and the ranges are very different and the needs are very different. I also I know that like sororities and like frats work totally different.
Yes, they are very different.
Like we don't even have like we have sororities and frats on campus, but they aren't like, we live in a city school, so it's not like they have like houses or anything, and like the way that they operate is very different. But like the ranges of money, it's very different.
Yeah. I'm very glad that you said an amount that was higher than 10,000. I was pretty sure that was what it was above 10,000, but I wanted to double check. So again, listeners, welcome to Collegiate Esports. We are a program of 2,000 at UGA that is running off of less than $700 per semester. Yeah. So welcome. And look, obviously, major shout out to what Emerson is doing because what y'all are doing is incredible, and obviously your impact on the school is worth every penny of that.
Mhm.
And that then goes to, hey, every esports program does that. Granted, y'all are obviously
Yeah.
going the extra mile, but every esports program that I've ever seen in collegiate has at least done the bare necessities of giving the community a place to succeed. And that's the mission of everybody. But it gets way harder to do that with the lack of funding. So I'm glad you said that. I also do want to make a side note is that we do not have incentive-based rewards in our funding application. So UGA, as of last year, there was 700 clubs. So we are treated the
Whoa.
exact same as 700 clubs. Now, you flip that around to this year, there is now 900 clubs. And that is within a year.
Wow.
That is a 200 club growth within a year, which for the university is awesome. But for
Yeah.
us is miserable. Because if you are one of 900 trying to stand out, it's miserable. So I do want to say shout out to all the small school leaders because what they're doing is incredible and they deserve everything. But to all my big school leaders, you understand where I'm coming from with this. And that also doesn't include the fact that clubs like esports are fighting with clubs like Humane Society or Miracle Network, which are incredible organizations nationwide with big money, big funding, big network people to pull from. And within esports, we're like, I play Rocket League. So there's a major disconnect and there's a
Yeah.
major just disvalue that esports in the collegiate scene has gained. And finding success through that is hard. So I'm glad you got to kind of talk about your process because esports at UGA is still very much in the middle of that.
This is like so eye-opening to me.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, I go to a small school, so like I really truly like I had never thought about how many clubs are at such a large school like y'all's, and that's
I mean,
Yeah.
I will say some of the clubs, though, you can pretty much register a club under the involvement network over anything. There's like Federation of Orange Juice Lovers and Apple
Yes.
Juice Alliance. Like, there's a lot of 10 to 15 person, like, friend group, quote, clubs. But the
Right.
sheer volume of it still kind of puts
But-
esports under.
And that's the issue with this too, is that there are 10 to 15 person clubs who request the same amount of money as a
That-
2,000, 3,000, 4,000 person club. So you're telling me that we get 750 max where you could probably shell out $10,000 extra based off of maybe 150 of those clubs who, and maybe this is crazy for me to say, but if you are a 10 to 15 person club and you're doing like a lemonade stand or something, you don't need that access to funding. And call me crazy, call me a hater, but it's the truth. And dealing with it firsthand is something that I was not aware of until I got into this position. Because there's no handbook, and we're gonna get into this too. There's no handbook in doing what we do. Every single person has to figure this out as they go, along with classes, along with work, along with apartments, along with dorms, along with whatever you're paying for or doing outside of school. You got family issues. The collegiate scene does not care.
No, it does not stop. It will not wait for
It's
you.
a field that will go on without you. And it's
Mhm.
crazy. And honestly, and I'm sure that Hannah can relate to this as well, is I feel like that if I'm not working 5 or 6 different events or jobs, that I'm behind.
Yeah. Ooh.
And
Yep.
and Friday, you can relate to that too, because you're also doing that. So it's such an odd scene that like we mentioned, just doesn't seem to care. But I don't want to be so negative. I do want to flip this around. So before we get into kind of women in the esports scene, then women in collegiate, I do want to hear from both of you kind of what's your favorite part of collegiate esports. Obviously, there's a lot of negatives. We touched on that. But I'll throw it to Hannah first. What's your favorite part of being in the collegiate scene?
Okay, I'm gonna say everything, which sounds crazy, but everything. Really and truly, I love college. You know, UGA was not my first choice university, and now that I'm here, I love it more than anything in the entire world. And you really do make friends with people who want to see you succeed. I'm involved in a lot of clubs on campus, and I think there's very few that retain the same culture that esports organizations do, and that everyone is pushing for you to be better pretty much all the time. And it's not really in a negative competitive way. It's in a, I know we can all succeed in this field. Let's do it together type vibe. And really just the people I've gotten to meet, the places I've gotten to go. I've been very fortunate in my career at this point to just be able to do so many things. And esports just given me a lot of opportunities. And collegiate just feels like one big family. You know, every time I tweet about collegiate on Twitter, I get 20 new followers from random program leaders, and I get to connect with so many people and just meet people and get to discuss the things we love, the things we don't love, how to fix things in our program. And it really just is a scene that I think is built on helping each other, making these grassroots programs become these big programs that you see across the country. So yeah.
Yeah, it is a scene where everybody is really fighting to get any help of any kind. So definitely true. So Friday, I'm sure you'll touch on that, but I'm intrigued to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, bouncing off of, really what Hannah said is that idea of like everyone is in, like, we are in the same boat regardless. Like, we are all college students and we're all trying to understand how this scene works in terms of esports overall as an ecosystem. Like, where do we fit in? Because it is this sort of thing where it's like, you don't see collegiate esports when you look at a map of the esports ecosystem and the industry. Like, you very rarely see, collegiate put up there, but it's like we all have this common understanding that like we all have a place here and that we're all trying to like help each other out and we're all trying to have fun and we're all trying to learn where we kind of fit in, like if we want to pursue the industry. And it is very much sort of kind of, at least for me in the org, I've been able to figure out like, okay, like what do I like where do I see myself going in this industry based off what I'm doing now. And so it is absolutely 1,000% just a chance for you to take opportunities and take risks. You can take so many, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like you decide to put on an event, and if it flops, it flops. But if you have fun with it, and there are people who have fun with it, then like there you go. You just ran an event, resume experience, like you know what I'm saying? So it's like you just get to trial and error things with a community that understands, and you can reach out to people and be like, hey, I'm part of this collegiate esports program. I want to know how you were able to build your program. And no one's gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna tell you how we did that. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna be like, yeah, like let me see if I can help you. It's very much a system of people that support each other, and that we kind of all have the same understanding of where we are all at this point in the.
Yeah, it is. It's either you're all in or you're all out. It really feels that way. But the trial and error and failing is okay. It's a very good point. I'm glad you mentioned that because a lot of new leaders or a lot of new officers that I talk to or people who reach out to us and say, hey, how did y'all do this? I mean, you got to try. I mean,
Yeah.
it's better that than nothing. I mean, that's what happened at esports at UGA over COVID, and the club almost fell off the face of the planet. And I know plenty of other programs who've dealt with that as well. So we'll move on. So now, obviously, one of the major parts of y'all's careers and kind of your side of things is how incredible that y'all are doing. And esports, a field that is normally praised for having everyone that you can possibly have, no matter if that's the disabled community, whether if that's women in gaming, whether if it's men in gaming, whether it's non-binary, et cetera, et cetera. It's a scene that is praised for that, but it's not a field that's as easy as it sounds. And that's kind of where I want to pass this off to you. Obviously, I am not a woman in gaming, so I'm very glad that we have y'all here to talk about that. But we'll kind of start from the collegiate side of things, kind of what's it like been working as a female in the collegiate scene, and then what's it been like taking that next step and working in the professional scene. So I will let Hannah kick us off.
Yeah, so I think honestly in the collegiate scene at this point, we're all pretty much grown. So I really haven't faced any issues in that regard. Like if I hear a snide comment here and there, I'm at the point in my life and my career where my resume backs myself up. So I don't really feel the need to respond to things like that, because it's like, okay, you're the loser. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. But I mean, definitely since I started streaming when I was 13 and just getting into the space. So growing up, it was a little different. And I think the culture of esports has shifted a lot in the last like 7 years, to where now it's a little less toxic. I would go to say I think we've made some great strides in that regard, but it used to really hurt my feelings. Like I used to get really up in my feelings. I was really insecure as a kid, and then being on the internet 24/7 like really didn't help. But just as I've grown up and just been more of an adult, I've realized that I love what I get to do, and I get to meet so many cool people and do so many cool things. And it's like, why do I care about what Boob Destroyer 69420XX on the internet says? Like, because that's like an 8-year-old. You know good and well it's like an 8-year-old. Like I can't even, you know what I
What
mean?
a name! What a name! Is that real?
No, I just made
Okay.
that up. But
Probably someone has
that's
it.
probably
You know
somebody.
someone has
That's
it.
probably somebody. I don't know. I mean, I get a comment here and there, but okay, this is like a silly kind of story. The other day there's this kid in my TikTok chat that was just kind of like troll women, LOL, like not being funny. And so I click on his profile because I'm at the point where I will just roast you and I don't really care. And his profile says, DM me for e-sex in bio. And so
Wow.
we all like I read
Crazy.
that and my entire chat like clowned him so hard and then he ended up deleting his account. So that's how I
Not
combat
bullying.
that.
Not bullying.
No.
It's even. It's
No,
even.
if you look, if you in my chat being like OnlyFans, get in the kitchen. What do you and your bio says e-sex in bio? Hello? Wait,
Yeah.
you need to reevaluate. not me.
Crazy,
Yeah.
very crazy point. So that actually, let's talk about ESEC. No, I'm joking. No,
Crazy transition.
that's a good
Crazy
point.
transition.
Is people forget that you're dealing with more than esports. You're dealing with working on the internet, and that alone is a whole podcast in itself. So
Yeah.
if you want to keep going, I'll let you keep going. But I want to make sure we
Yeah,
touch on that.
I'll go quick through this. But I will say I think one of the drawbacks is that being a woman, being a woman, being a woman, I think you automatically have less credibility to the 50-year-old businessman who might invest in esports who doesn't really know what he's talking about. And especially being 20 and having pink hair for like 3 years of my life, my credibility factor automatically went down. So I think that just underlying bias is sometimes hard to fight. And I know I usually try to back that up with facts and figures and all the information I know and the things I've learned, but that bias is always inherently going to be there. But I do think a lot of women in the space have worked through that really well. And I see, I see the chat.
I'm laughing at chat. I'm
up.
laughing at chat.
No, I know. I was reading it. I was trying not to laugh. But yeah, I think that's one of the major problems at this point is still just getting over that credibility factor. And I'm hoping that, gets better as I get a little older, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely, who would guess that having pink hair takes down your credibility?
Yeah.
I know people's parents are always like, don't get tattoos. They'll ruin your job interviews. Yeah, how about having pink hair?
My dad clowned me for that for 3 years. So
Shout out Hana Dad. Shout out Hana
love
Dad.
you, Dad.
But no, I mean, seriously, incredible points. I'm sure Friday will touch on that. But as a leader in collegiate, as a woman in gaming, I would love to hear your take on what it's been like going through that whole process as well.
Is that for me or for?
Sorry, it's for Friday.
Okay. I was like, that was
for
fine.
me.
Sorry, as
Oh
a
my God.
as a
No, you're so
collegiate
good.
leader
Yeah.
and also being a female, along with just getting
Absolutely.
used to working on the internet.
Yeah. I remember when I was executive assistant, and so I had reached a point. I was like vice president, and I was just kind of getting into things, and I was thinking of going from executive assistant to vice president. And our current collegiate leader at the time was a woman. Shout out Paige. But I remember like at the end of a meeting, she called everyone over into like a little she was like taking people one by one, asking them where they could see themselves going in the org. And I was like, maybe vice president. I was like, I don't know. And she was like, and president? And I was like, you think? And she's like, oh, I know. And like in that moment, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I can do this. And so I did. But it's like, I had never seen anyone coming from like, having gone from, COVID being online and not really seeing that many women in gaming, especially like in leadership positions in the industry, just because I was very new to the scene. I was just seeing a lot of pro players that were men playing. And I wasn't kind of getting any of that. I, didn't just really see a lot of women playing games, aside from like stuff on Twitch. But so when she had said that to me, like that she could see me being president, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I can do this. And so obviously, like I said, I did it. But it was really it was definitely scary. I definitely found myself taking a lot of initiative that I naturally take as someone who I kind of feel like I have that sort of quality. But I will say, like, sometimes I felt like I needed to be the loudest voice in the room in order to be heard. And that's not to say anything about anyone. That was just like, that was kind of something that just like had kind of came with me into the position, was just this idea of like, oh, if I don't speak out first, or if I don't say something, then it's gonna get covered up. uh and then obviously over time the dynamics shift, and like I very much was a lot more comfortable in the space. And there were also other women on the board, and that was amazing, because I feel like having different perspectives on a leadership team like that is so important, because that's the most important thing we can learn. uh, just about anything is like how other people feel about things. Perspective is so important. And so, I'm a lot more confident now, but I would still say, like, going to certain networking events where the majority of the people there are men, I still just kind of get like, I don't know if I'm going to be taken seriously. And a lot of the times I get the like, maybe I should just be on screen and I don't have what it takes to do any like management stuff. But like, I would like to think that I'm capable of that. And so like I think my capabilities definitely, I think people see this before they see this first still. Um,
Which
that's
I want to
something.
explain to the viewers, the audio viewers. She said people see the face
Oh,
before they
the
see
face before
the
they see
mind behind
the
things.
brain,
Yes,
the
definitely.
brain
That
behind
that
stuff,
right there is so powerful in itself. That's such a good point to make. Sorry, had to explain that. You can keep going.
No, you're so real. No, so that's that's where I would kind of say about that. And I think one of the biggest things that I felt like I had done as a leader was help put together a women in the industry panel that was specifically highlighting different women in different areas of the industry. I got to bring in Miranda O'Hare, which was amazing because she's the voice actor for Sky. She's so wonderful and so lovely. And then we had Ashley Crocker, who works at Riot, but she founded Emerson Esports. So we had her talk, so just women in different areas of this industry. And it was so amazing to kind of have them talk to the members of our org. And like that was really a transitional moment for me, being like this is like this mentorship, this leadership that we're seeing from these women is so important, because that can get lost a lot. And then when I was starting to get into it, I didn't see anyone in those positions, and so then I would get scared and not put myself out there. And so like having those figures in the industry to kind of help guide us is so important, and we need more of it, because we need to see women in more leadership positions. And a lot of that just comes down to the people that are running a lot of that don't women.
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree. Having the different views and having the different perspectives in esports is so important, because it is a field with so much variety. You can have a program that is known for Valorant and Valorant only, and you can have programs that are known for 4 to 5 other games, or programs that are known for Smash Bros. Or card games, or I mean, you can go on and on. So yes, I agree. Being open to everyone that you meet in this scene, along with letting everyone speak, is very important. I know one thing that we do here at UGA is we have our major officer meetings, which is like I think 30 to 40 people. And everybody gets the chance to input. So yes, that we have a leadership team, which is like our top 7 to 6, who make the real decisions, but those are not decisions that are not like voted on or swayed based on community opinion. So very good point. Also, getting involved in collegiate esports in general, as a president, you and me have very similar experiences. I came in 2 months before my first class at UGA. So the summer before my freshman year, that was when I applied and was given the role that same week, because nobody applied for president, for vice president, for secretary, for treasurer. I could go on.
wait,
Yes.
you like freshman, like what?
Yes.
Like
2 months before my first class at UGA. Literally a month out of high school graduation. Yeah.
whoa.
So we share similar stories, and so many other people do as well. And it's all incredible. And also, one thing that I want y'all to speak on too is, I think in the last 2 years, I think the progress in the scene for women in gaming has been the quickest and the most exponential it's ever been. So many orgs have started to support women in gaming. Obviously, there was the whole G1, WCB. Like Rocket League has had its own history. Other games haven't had anything that bad yet, and hopefully they never will. But orgs are picking up female teams. Money is going to female scenes along with HBCU and everybody who's kind of in these quote-unquote minority groups, which women in gaming is not a minority. I do want to make sure that's stated. It's more about letting the voices be heard. There are still plenty out there. Everyone's kind of getting to grow together in the last 2 years. And there's also a lot of leading organizations, including the Gamers. And that is something that I would love for y'all to talk about, considering that you both have been finalists for Gamers Awards this last year. Obviously, Hana took home Scholar/Intern of the Year for 2023. Or technically with 2024. It was, I don't know what it counts for. I believe it counts for the school year. For the 2023 through 2024
It says 2024 on it.
Okay, damn right.
Oh.
So yeah, let's talk about Gamers very briefly because that's one of many organizations that are kind of trying to help pave the way for women in gaming. And I'd love to hear y'all's experience. Obviously, I know you both, I believe, are going to be ambassadors, if I'm correct. I would love to hear your opinions and thoughts on kind of working behind the scenes to support other women in gaming who may follow after you. I'll start with Hana.
I'm super freaking excited. I love the Gamers. It's such a great team over there. Actually, in my brand ambassador interview, like we talked for a little bit, and then they found out I went to UJ, and they asked me, they were like, "Wait, do you know this guy? We think he might have a girlfriend." And we just immediately sank into like that feeling of friendship and girlhood and sisterhood, and it was just so cute. And it was, I don't know, I just love the team over there. So many amazing people, so many amazing initiatives, and just being at the awards show that night, that was such a cool experience. Getting to meet so many people, getting to meet Friday, was really exciting. But it was just such an inspirational room full of people who do genuinely want to uplift you, and I think that is a really important space to create that the Gamers is working really hard to create. So I'm excited to be on board. We have our onboarding meeting tomorrow, I believe, actually. So I'm excited to learn more about what this process is going to entail and how we're actually going to be able to work in on the projects and give back.
Yeah, it is an incredible organization. Getting to be at the award show with y'all as like maybe one of like 25, 30 guys there. It was incredible, and me being younger in the field and not having a lot of experience, it was a crazy switch and a crazy change of perspective for me. But I'll let y'all do your thing. Friday, you go for it.
No, you're so good. I actually had heard of the Gamers because one of our current advisors, who was the co-president before I was, Sam, actually works at the Gamers, and so I was kind of aware of the Gamers for a while. But it wasn't really until this year's awards, the first awards that were in person, and then seeing that we were nominated for top collegiate organization, I was like, whoa. I was like, I have not been involved in the scene. Also, because I haven't been like, I'm like new to Twitter, so I'm really kind of like now I'm kind of getting what the scene is all about by by being on that site specifically. But yeah, I've really resonated with what the Gamers is trying to do in the space that they're trying to create. And their main platform is their app, which is amazing. And it's such a great, loving community that, uplifts each other, which is exactly what the Gamers Awards was. One of the best events ever. And I'm so excited to see what they have in store for, their ambassador program. Because I think, Hana, you're a brand ambassador, correct?
In both of the chats, I'm not really sure. Can I be honest?
Okay, sick. No, love.
I'll be honest.
No, really.
If I'm one of the Gamers admins, I'm making her both. I'm gonna be for real. So
I
I would
don't know what I'm
imagine
doing.
you'll probably be some form of hybrid or one or the other. Or...
I'm just excited to be here.
No, it's great. I was gonna say because like I might have like a different, because I was gonna say if you're a brand ambassador and I was collegiate, we might get like kind of like two different like experiences there in a good way. You know what I'm saying? Views and which is great. So I'm really excited to see what they have in store. And you had mentioned that in your interview, it was like just having a conversation. And I actually know the person who was interviewing me. Like I popped in the room and I saw Sheridan. I was like, oh my God, girl. I was like, I didn't know you were interviewing me. And so we just got like, we just got to gabbing, we were just yapping up a storm. And so it was so amazing and lovely. And they're just so personable. And they, the event itself was just incredible. I've
Beautiful.
never been at an event like that in my life. And the people that I had met are like, I had become, pretty close with a couple of women there that are, in their late 20s, 30s, and I'm 21. Like I'm a youngling, but like it was so easy just to get along with them, and they have such different backgrounds than I do, but like everyone was there to support each other. Like no matter if anyone won or lost. Like there was no feeling of like competition. And that's just like such a beautiful thing to be able to have, because that's the support that we need industry. That is how we get that is how we make it. And so it was just like a loving space, and I'm so excited to see how they continue to grow.
Yeah, I was thrilled to be there, and I was thrilled to get to cheer y'all on. Obviously, when Hana won, I went crazy. And
Oh, went
if
nuts.
anybody other than Hana won, I might have been a little upset. But no, I mean, it was incredible. Also,
Thank
shout
you.
out to the Spotify people. You're just gonna have to
Raid!
deal with this. But there's a Twitch raid. Shout out Collegiate CS. They just got done with their Collegiate Season 3 Rocket League kickoff tournament. So another big collegiate event that highlighted a lot of teams that haven't gotten the chance this year since there hasn't been CRL. So big shout out to Collegiate CS. Thank you for the raid. To those of you who are just joining, sorry to the Spotify listeners, you're going to have to deal with this. But to those of you who are joining, welcome to Third Man. This is a podcast we do every Sunday night. I'm here with the wonderful Hana, a.k.a. Nebby, ghost content creator, along with Swiss Army Knife of other incredible things. And Friday is also a Swiss Army Knife in her own right, working over at Emerson, working in college esports news. There we go. Sorry, Sheridan. I'll get it right. But okay, so let's get back to the point. Yeah, no, the Game Hers Awards were so incredible. I was smiling the whole time. Like, my jaw actually hurt after the fact.
Literally.
I didn't see anybody who was distraught. The only tears I saw were the tears of joy that Manda shed after she won her award.
Oh my
Which
God,
I got
video of that moment.
I got to talk to her after about it. She just started bawling. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible to see. It's so cool. So yeah, big shout out to the Gamers. They are just one of many organizations that are doing incredible things. So we will continue. So now, coming from the collegiate side of things, we kind of already briefly touched on this, but I do want to kind of go back over it. So now, as you go to actually try and work in esports, or if you don't want to work in esports, we can talk about women in your field of choice, but I imagine both of y'all will stay involved in some capacity. So now going from collegiate and kind of like even Game Hers are targeting collegiate. So now kind of moving from that world up to the more general being a female in esports. What has that been like? Obviously, Hana, with content creation, we could talk about internet trolls all day. I'm sure you have some funny stories there. But I'll throw it back to you to talk about becoming a professional, because you are a professional content creator. Nobody's going to tell you otherwise because you are org signed. So kind of with that, and also your other endeavors like casting, kind of what has it been like as a female in those fields?
None of it feels real to me, if I'm being honest. You know, this was like my 13-year-old pipe dream. And now I'm 20 and get to still do the things I love. So it's been a really, really amazing journey. Even then you said professional, it still doesn't really feel real. You know what I mean? Because still when my parents are like talking to their friends, they're like, oh, what does your kid do? Like, what is her job? They're like, she doesn't have a job. It's like, actually, guys, I do have a job. But it's really just been awesome to see the development of all of these scenes, and especially just see Rocket League advancing or possibly not advancing, depending on who you ask in the last few months. But just getting to stay with all these people, and also because I've been doing it for so long, getting to kind of grow up with everyone. Some of my favorite people I met in 2018, 2019 are now professional players, and they get to go do X, Y, and Z, and people are now coaches, and it's like kids that I grew up with, I feel like, on the internet have just come into their own, and it's just awesome to also kind of be coming into my own. As for what I'm going to do after college, you know, the world may never know. I have like a year and a half left. Really don't know what's going on. I think I'm just going to hope for the best. And with commentating, you know, that's a new endeavor for me, and I love it so much. It is genuinely so much fun. I am not world's greatest commentator by any means, but it is something I'm really passionate about, and something I think I can come to be good at in the future. So I am getting a CS degree right now, but I am hoping to never have to use it. But if I do, you know, that'll hopefully be a good job out of college. Women in STEM, super, super fun. I walk into my classes and there's 3 women in them at any given time. So that's fun.
Yeah, if this wasn't an esports podcast, we would definitely touch on women in STEM. My girlfriend is also a woman in STEM, so
She gets it.
yeah, I hear about that all the time. I like to think I'm an ally in some capacity. So,
TJ's one of the girls, guys. He's one of the girls.
like we said at the beginning, this might as well be third woman instead of third man. So seriously, no, that's really cool. I'm glad to hear that there's a lot of positives. Now, granted,
Truly.
I do want the people who are hearing this, who are maybe in middle school, high school, who are like, I want to get involved, but I'm scared. I know plenty of girls who didn't want to be involved in my high school program because of the stigma around gaming, and especially the moment you turn your mic on in a Valorant lobby or a COD lobby, and we see memes about it, we joke about it, but it's a real concern. And so what I also want to hear from you, Hannah, is what are some of the negatives that you've faced, kind of how you've combated it, and then how you kind of felt it's gotten as your brand has gotten bigger?
I will say, I think growing up at the very beginning of my journey, I faced a lot more sexualization than I have in the last few years, which has been great. Glad that's gone away. But I think a lot of the things that bothered me and things that made me scared were because I was caring about other people's opinions. Like I had this moment in high school where I just realized my life would be so much more fun if I did not care. And then I stopped caring. And that sounds really simple, and obviously it was a process, but now I'm at the point where I literally do not care. So, I mean, this negativity is still happening. Like, I'll still be in an occasional Valorant lobby and someone's like, meh, 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 dishwasher, meh, meh. And I hate to say you have to mute, but honest to God, like, I'm not going to sit there and argue with them because I know good and well they're not going to change their mind in the 20 minutes we're in the game, and I'm not going to use up my valuable energy to argue with some 12-year-old on the internet. So while there are some negatives that come up, I think you will find a community of women who will help uplift you. For any woman watching who may be younger that wants to do this, you will find a community of people who are willing to help you. I've found the majority of the people on the internet are much more willing to help than you may think. Sometimes it just takes a simple DM. I think putting yourself out there like that can be really valuable growth for you as a person, and also in the esports industry if that's something you choose to pursue.
Yeah, inspirational. No, but on a serious note, yeah, there is so many ups and downs. Obviously, like I am not a woman. I know the collegiate scene is hard enough. I can't imagine what the extra barriers are like, but I am glad that I feel that everybody is trying to contribute to a field, both on the professional side of things and the collegiate side of things, where it is more even, where it is fair. Obviously, Friday, like you mentioned earlier, Emerson having an all-women's team is incredible. It's hard to even get teams together in collegiate, let alone a gender-based team, having non-binary and females and all that. So I'll throw it over to you for your take. Same question to Hannah, kind of like what your experience has been like the negative side, but also how you've combated it, how you've grown, and how you've kind of seen that get better or worse throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually wrote a human rights research paper on gender discrimination and like career barriers
We have an
that
expert,
women
yeah.
and other marginalized genders face. Literally one of the points that my teacher had made on that paper was like, you made a topic that I didn't know that there could be like an argument for, and like made an argument for it, and I was like, yes. But one of the examples I actually used in the paper was this idea that like when I first started playing Overwatch, I had Kath as my name. And I didn't really, that was my name. What was I gonna put? Like I didn't know what else. Like that was just, that's me. So I put Kath, and then I started getting called out in like comp lobbies and stuff. And I turned on my mic one time, and it was the worst decision that I've ever made. And so when I was transitioning over to Valorant, I was like, okay. I was like, I'm gonna pick a name that I guess is more gender neutral, like stereotypically gender neutral. And so I picked Friday, which has its own history, but um I didn't think that anyone else like did that. I didn't think that other women like specifically chose names to hide, you know, their gender in game. And it was only until I started doing like my research for this paper that I realized that like a lot of other women did this. And I was like, I was like, wow. And a lot of, the harassment and discrimination that women face now in the industry itself is so deeply rooted in the way that games are made. It goes back to the video game design. That's how we got here. And part of this is like certain companies asking, what real video games do you play? Like, what does real mean? Like, are you talking about like me playing like little cozy games? Is that not real enough for you? And it's that sort of thing.
Talk your
Um,
shit.
Yeah. But that's really kind of where this sort of all comes from. It's just like the design of the games of like women in games originally uh were overly sexualized and made to seem inferior in video games. And so then when it came time for them to like actually start like, playing, like when they really started getting involved in gaming, and the scene was predominantly men, they were like shocked. They're like, what's going on? Like inferior in the game must be inferior, like can't keep up with these real games. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really where it comes from. And so, stepping kind of into the industry, I still for a long time had this sense that like I needed to be good at games. Like I needed to be really good at Valorant. I playing cozy games somehow didn't make me a gamer. Like I didn't call myself a gamer for so long. I said that I dabbled in video games because I was too afraid to call myself a gamer, because then I thought that I was going to be judged if I wasn't good enough and things like that. And it, has gotten to this point now where it's just like, I don't care. Like if I'm bad, then I'm bad. Like it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I'm a woman if I'm bad at video games, but it was this like it was all of that, harassment and misogyny against women that put that idea in my brain for so long. And so, stepping in, into the industry, there are definitely still career barriers. But I would say like I'm confident in who I am, and that has taken a really long time. And there are unfortunately people who are not. And because, they don't have that same sort of, they're not influenced by other people like them in the industry to be able to feel like they can do it, and that they, have the same capabilities to do what other people are doing. And so like I'm very thankful that I've been able to kind of figure that out about myself. And so that's why, I'm, not as nervous. But like I definitely still recognize that it's hard and that's okay. you
Yeah,
know.
and I think your audio cut out, but just so that everybody's aware, she said, and that's okay. That is such a strong point. I mean, overall, what an incredible point to make about people associating women with certain games. I've never thought about cozy games as something that's normally assigned to women or non-binary or whoever. So that's an incredible point. Obviously, you guys are so much more than Stardew Valley or Minecraft or whatever bullshit people want to throw at you. Um, that's just such a powerful point in itself that I didn't think
Yeah,
of.
and I mean, and it's okay if that's what people play. It doesn't make them like any less so of a gamer. It's just this idea that like people think that you need to be playing like FPS games.
And so kind of building on this happened to me the other day. In my class group me, we are all discussing a homework, and someone DMs me and he's like, "Hey, have you done the homework?" And I'm like, "No, honestly, I'm not worrying about it right now. I'm playing League." And he goes, "What? But you're blonde and you're a girl. I didn't expect that." Or let me read the exact text message, because I was actually
Ooh,
just
let's
so
quote
flabbergasted.
it. Let's
I
quote
was
it.
actually so flabbergasted. It was actually so crazy to me.
And just to
Because
clarify,
there's no way.
this is a fellow student, correct?
No, this is somebody I know in real life,
Okay.
like in a class with me. Okay.
Here we go. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Oh gosh.
Chat's on the edge of
I
its
said
seat.
I am playing League as we speak. I've been doing homework for like 3 hours and need a break. What? But you're like a white girl? Question mark and blonde. I'm so shook right now.
Yeah,
Hello?
let's let that one breathe for a second.
Like,
That's crazy.
Wow. Okay, well that perfectly summarizes a lot of what we were
and
talking
so
about.
I said, yeah, sorority girls actually have hobbies too, contrary to popular belief.
Yeah. Hey, you tell him. You tell him.
I was like, be quiet, bro.
Yeah.
And then bro has the audacity to ask me for the homework answers.
Ooh. Sounds like we're doxing.
Sorry,
him,
I thought I was
after-
blonde. I thought I was just blonde.
Sounds like we're doxing after stream?
God.
Question mark? No. No. On a
He started
serious
asking me for
note.
homework answers too, bro. Never mind. I'm sorry.
That was crazy. No, don't apologize. You guys are here
That's
to
like
speak.
that's like one of the first times that's happened to me for somebody I actually know, like in real life, and I was so flabbergasted. But also, I think older men just have this weird stigma against women in gaming and women streamers, because my mom's neighbor, actually, he has a weird brother, and he always like comes over to their house and like sits with them, but they don't like him. This is a whole thing. But they told him that, I stream, and he was like, well, because there was one stream I was doing a subathon, and I told my mom, I was like, oh my gosh, I got enough money to pay for this. Like I was really excited. Subathon went really well. And after I leave, he looks at my mom and he's like, so does she stream in like low cut shirts? I don't understand how she's doing that.
Wow.
And this is like a 40-year-old man. And then, but he's like, I don't know why I'm single.
Does she stream in
Um,
low-cut shirts?
No, when my mom told me that, I actually almost went next door and yelled at him. But she told me I wasn't allowed to talk to him because I would have gotten really mad at him.
Wow.
Let me talk to him. No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
I actually haven't spoken to him since. I flicked him off through a window once, and then he looked confused, and I went back downstairs.
Love you for that.
Yeah, that is
Wow.
wow. And before I get to my next question, I'm gonna give a time check over to Friday. How much time do you have? I don't want to push it.
I would say like about like 15 more minutes.
Okay.
Yes,
I will briefly pass this into the conversation. This is something I didn't think to talk about, but the more we talk about it, the more I realize it might be important. With the generalization and sexualization of women in gaming, I'm intrigued to hear how y'all feel about Twitch as a platform allowing categories where sexual content is allowed, especially since that is a category that I believe is like 85-90% women. And not to say there's anything disrespectful about that field, but this is something I didn't think to talk about. I'm intrigued to hear how, as y'all are trying to make your names in the scene and trying to progress your careers, do you feel like that is taking steps back or forward, or obviously a little sensitive, but I would love to hear opinions on it since we have a little bit of time. I'll throw to Hannah first.
So I think I'm really torn on this because I've gone back and forth on this a lot, reading a lot of things on Twitter, reading a lot of people's opinions, but it doesn't affect me because that's not my audience anyway. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's not my place to be like, no, you can't do that. But I also don't think Twitch is the site for that. Like, I support sex workers. That's how a lot of people make their money, and good for you. But Twitch in general, I don't think is the place for that. But I'm also not going to go hate on you on Twitter if Twitch allows you to have that platform here, because that's not in my control. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So make your money how you make your money. I'm so torn on this issue because I don't want to be like, ban them.
Yeah.
But then there's
And
also
Twitch has found a weird middle ground. I think
That's what I'm saying.
I think Twitch has done a solid job at least limiting it to where it's not literally the hub. I'm not going to say the full website
yes.
name, but yes.
Well, and that's what the thing is. They're like, oh, but it's 18 plus. But anyone can type in a fake birthday on the internet. Like, kids will find access to pornographic material if they want to. Like, they literally will. That's their kids. They know how the internet works. But I don't know. I feel like Twitch has done a good job of not necessarily enabling it. Because, you know, the thing was coming out recently with like the green screens on people's chests and stuff. And they banned that pretty quick, like getting that done. But I also think it can be done tastefully. Like, I think body painting, I've watched a lot of really cool body painting streams that are not inherently sexual, but were banned because of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there's such a fine balance. And I think it's about the intention. I really don't think Twitch is the site for this. But TLDR, I won't drag you for it because those aren't my viewers anyway, and it doesn't affect me. So
Fair. Totally fair. Friday, I'll very quickly pass it to you before we go to viewer questions. Oh, also, before you start, viewers, have your questions ready. We do have a segment for that. It's going to take like 5-6 minutes, so be ready for that. All right, Friday, take it away.
I very much agree, Hannah. Like, it's not because I have streamed obviously in the and that's not my like area. That's not like the people who watch my videos, things like that. Completely different base in that way.
Mhm.
And I would say like I don't shame anyone for that sort of work. Like, I completely get why people, you know what I'm saying, why people do it. And God, I also think that there is a larger question of whether or not like Twitch is the platform for it. Like, I completely hear what you're saying. But at the end of the day, I think like Twitch is kind of doing what they can to kind of like find that middle ground that we're talking about. And as long as like stereotype like doesn't like all of a sudden become like, okay, like why aren't you content?
yeah.
Like I'm playing, I'm doing my thing here. Like, if that's the content you want, then like over there. You know what I'm saying? Like, as long as like there's like not, it doesn't become this like general like idea that like now that's what all women are doing Twitch, then like, you know what I'm saying? So
I think it definitely contributes to some of that negative narrative that women haters already have on the internet. So it's not super conducive or helpful. But I think we're on the same page in that regard. I think the majority of women are, honestly, because it's like, it's not really our place. we don't like. I don't know. That's such
Yeah.
a hard thing to give jurisdiction on.
Yeah, which is totally fair. That's why I wanted to very briefly talk about it, just because it's something I didn't start thinking about till the end. Okay, so now, viewers, and if you're not here live and you're here on Spotify, you're here on Apple Music or wherever you're listening from, this is the problem. Be here, live on Twitch, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Sundays. Twitch.tv/DJTJRL. All right, questions. Throw them in. We only have time for a few, so we're going to briefly run through them. I will start with this one. We won't touch too heavily on each question, but let's start with this. So I'll throw it to Hannah first.
Okay.
Do you think that an introduction of leagues that incorporate a majority women team or a full women team would help with the growth of women's esports? And the example that they gave was a Rocket League where there's 2 females and 1 male. So like a co-ed league of some kind. I'm intrigued to hear thoughts.
The eventual goal is to be able to have an integrated league and there not be any hate or negativity or problems within that. So I think, yes, incorporating a majority women's team would help the growth of women's esports, but I think that is more for a safe space to learn how to compete, enjoy competing, meet other women in the scene who go through similar struggles, with the goal of being able to compete in, quote, the big leagues. You know what I mean? Like in RLCS and in places like that. Because I think, especially in Rocket League, we have a lot of amazing women talent that I think definitely could be up there. But those social barriers, you know, and there's definitely cliques around the top of the scene, you know what I mean? So just being able to break through that to eventually integrate back into the main scene, I think that's the main goal. So yes, I do think it would be helpful. However, I think it'll be a while until we get there, which is why the women's spaces are so necessary, to give women that platform, and to just get to understand each other on a different level.
Yeah. All right, Friday. Quickly to you.
I mean, I absolutely agree, because I think that like there have been teams that have been like co-ed and they have not gone over well, and so that's why like the incorporation of spaces specifically for women, like only leagues, like I mean like Valorant Game Changers, like that's specifically like that idea of that tournament is, you know, to create that sort of space so that we can then hopefully have, because people definitely see it as like VCT up here and then like that Valorant Game Changers, like that's unfortunately, I say this like no offense to like Riot or anything, but like I definitely think that if we're in a world where like VCT fell, I think Game Changers would fall too. But if Game Changers were to fall, I think VCT would still stand, just because that's just kind of how things have gone, and hopefully we get to a point where it's like not like that, but that's just I think where we're kind of at, because very still be the one that gets all the views and gets the other, you know, being slightly underneath it, I would almost say. I see it as the way of like, I fucking love Game Changers, but it's like unfortunately I just think in terms of like viewership and like what people pay attention to, still put T like on a pedestal. So yeah, that's what I would say. So I completely agree with Hannah that it's like creating that space is important in order to get to where we need to be.
Yeah. No, I mean, very well said. Obviously, your mic was cutting a little bit.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But to make sure that everybody understands is that obviously you both are in agreement that yes, but no. Obviously, in a perfect world, it would be nice to have more women in gaming. That way we see professional teams where women are naturally earning their spots, and then we have co-ed teams that are just as good as a men's team or a women's team. Obviously, in a perfect world, we would love that. Hopefully, we're getting there. Okay, we'll take one more. One of the cool ones that I was just looking at, if we do go through this one quickly, we might do one more. This was an interesting one. What brand would you want to be sponsored by the most, and why? Friday, you get to go 2 times in a row. Let's see what you say.
Oh my god, I don't think I've ever actually thought about being like sponsored by a brand. Oh my god, I'm not even sure I have like an answer for that.
We can come back to you.
You come back to me?
I feel like Hannah knows. I feel like you definitely have an idea.
My 3.
Ooh, 3. All right, go for it.
Yes.
Name 'em off.
Subway. Me and Noah go to Subway every
I love
Tuesday and then
Subway.
watch The Bachelor. I love Subway. 2, Cookout. I really fuck
Okay.
with Cookout, guys. I just really fuck with Cookout. Number 3, Charlotte Tilbury or Elf, some sort of a makeup sponsorship, because I wear so much damn makeup every day. And if they would send it to me for free, my life would be exponentially better. And I actually believe in the product. And I believe in the product of Cookout, because nothing hits better than a Cookout milkshake at 4 a.m. And I stand on that.
Yes, I will stand right there with you. All right, Friday.
And-
Well, yeah. Or sorry, go for it.
Oh no. No, I don't think I have one. Never mind, just kidding.
Okay. All
I
right,
thought about it.
Friday.
I
Well,
don't.
Hana made it look easy. So, do you have at least one?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I would probably say okay. Probably I'm just thinking like in terms of like morals and like
Okay.
who I like align myself with, I guess I would say. I would say one, I would say one size. It's Patrick Starr's like makeup brand, and I use their eyeliner like religiously. And I think, it's just that idea of like, that kind of like uniform idea that like anyone can wear anything. And I think that's what I'm all about. Anyone kind of who they want to be and do what they want to do. I know that there's been issues with like Logitech's like that's so maybe if they want to sponsor me, we can work on that. Logitech, if you see this, shh.
I'm also a massive Logitech fan. The G is on
Because
my head right now.
I think
Sorry,
there's just
guys.
they're like part of their like morals and values is this idea of just like being very inclusive and things on that line, which I think that I also find myself aligning with. But I would say like make sure that these are safe to wear.
Yeah. Shout out Logitech. Very good answer. Okay, we'll take one more because I know we're already kind of over time. As more and more women enter the esports scene, is there someone that you look up to as a role model? I'll start with Hana.
I think I'm very lucky in this regard that the Rocket League women's community, I think, is pretty close. Definitely Elise Hercules. I love her. She is hilarious. Always answers all my questions. Bailey's been a supporter since day one. God, there's so many people that I want to name, and I'm gonna like list like 12 people in a row. Cat Jeans is fantastic and amazing and beautiful. Athena, I think really paved the way for a lot of the women in Rocket League. Chrissy's done so well. Oh my god, I'm literally just about to name every woman in Rocket League. So literally every single woman in Rocket League, because they are all so genuinely supportive and accepting, and I feel like all of their younger sister, because I'm a few years younger than a lot of them, so it's like I know I could DM any one of them and be like, hey, I need help with this, will you help me? And they will help me, like no matter what it was. The amount of people I've DM being like, my TikTok stream looked bad, how do I fix, like, and they're all there and they all help out, and they're really amazing.
Yeah.
So
Shout out women in Rocket League. All right, Friday goes to you.
I would probably say I have like my own opinions about esports organizations as a whole. Like Evil Geniuses, I got to see them play PRX for VCT. And I was rooting for PRX, but I will say that like Potter leading EG was just like not like everyone walked out on that stage and everyone was chanting Potter. And I just think she's so badass. And getting to watch all the videos where kind of she talks about where she's come from and kind of how she's um, been working with the team to get where they are. Whether or not I feel strongly about the team, I will say that just like Potter as a person and as a coach, eh, I think what she does is she's truly crafted like powerhouse like players. Like at the end of the day, like they are still good players. So I would say that like I'm very heavily influenced by the way that she's just kind of like grabbed everyone's attention like that and been like, yeah, like look what I'm gonna do here. So love
Yeah.
Potter.
Great answers. That's just a few of many women in gaming who are incredible, and especially like Hana and Friday, incredible in their own right. That's the whole point of why I wanted to have y'all on here. This is only the second episode of this podcast, but I'm glad we got to hit on so many important topics. It's been an absolute pleasure to have y'all. To anybody listening at home or listening live, thank you for obviously supporting and kind of giving the platform to people who really deserve it, like Hana and Friday. Obviously, again, pleasure to have y'all. I will give y'all the floor one last time to say anything you want to. Anything inspirational, any thank yous, just generally, I just want to pass y'all the floor. Friday, I will start with you.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for having me. Thank everyone for watching and tuning in and listening. I think like I said before, like opening these conversations about experiences in the industry is so important. Like I said, going back to it, perspective is huge. And so to be doing this is incredible. So thank you again. I'll like leave you all with this, like want you all to feel seen and I want you all to feel heard. And that's kind of why I'm in this industry in the first place, is so that, other people can feel like they can do this. So if you're thinking like, I can do it, you can do it. And then shameless plug OMG Friday on Twitter. I had to.
Oh, we already plugged. Don't worry. We're already
Okay,
plugging.
phenomenal.
It's in the Twitch chat, girl.
Yes, all
It's in there.
of y'all's socials are included in the live chat and also in the description of the podcast. We make sure that we treat our guests well here at Third Man, which, hey, might be Third Woman by next week. Who knows? But all right, Hannah, goes to you.
Hey guys. First of all, TJ, thank you for having me. You know we could yap forever. Had so much fun. Also, I would like to say there's so many women in Rocket League who are my mentors, and I literally cannot list all of them because they're all amazing, and I really just needed to clarify that. What else was I gonna say? Pause. Sorry for munching on my chips. I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten much today.
We couldn't hear that. They're good.
Oh, great. Good. Chat saw me eating. But thank you guys so much for being here. I genuinely am so blessed to be able to have any sort of semblance of a platform and get to do what I do every day. It's all because of you guys. And if we haven't gotten to connect or meet personally, please send me a DM somewhere. I'd love to get to know you and get to talk to you a little bit. And if you ever had any questions or anything you need, please feel free to send me a DM. I respond pretty much everywhere except Instagram. There's weirdos in Instagram DMs.
Yeah, guys, it's been a pleasure. It has been awesome, but unfortunately, we do have to go. So I have been DJTJ. This has been Hannah, aka nebbiiee. Go check her out. Go check OMG Friday out. Our incredible guests. Thank you all for supporting. We will see you next week. Everybody, have a great night. See y'all.